This is how to replace a head gasket on a 4-liter Jeep. Today I'm replacing it on my 92 Jeep Cherokee XJ. For those of you who have been following the channel and following along, I just want to kind of explain how I ended up destroying the head gasket in my Jeep. For those of you who just want to see the build, go ahead and skip to 1 minute and 48 seconds. So during the same cold spell where I broke my clutch master cylinder, I actually sold the Jeep to a guy. He drove 8 hours away to pick it up. When he took it, he drove probably 30 minutes down the road, and it was so cold that the thermostat locked shut. It froze or something, and the coolant wouldn't circulate through the engine, so it overheated on him. I felt bad. He had to drive all the way back. He had work the next day. So I ended up taking it back, giving him his money back. When I took it back, I didn't know that the head gasket was blown. I thought he just overheated it for a little bit. But the next morning, I realized the whole side of the street was closed, and I had to move my van because they were going to trim the trees there, or else they would have towed it. And I tried starting the van, and the van was dead because it was so cold. So I tried jumping it with the Cherokee, ended up killing the Cherokee, and then I ended up using the Pathfinder here to jump the Cherokee to jump the van. So I had 3 dead vehicles on the side of the road where they were going to tow them. While I was doing this, I looked under the Jeep and there was a pool of oil. The thing was just pissing oil. So I took it to an oil change place thinking maybe they put the filter in wrong or something. And we found oil on the air filter, which was a telltale sign that our head gasket was blown. Anyway, let's get to the build. All right, first you got to remove your air box. Should be a little clip back here. Take off. Move this guy free. There's another clip here. Next, you're gonna want to drain your radiator. On mine, there's a little clip down here. That little white guy up there. So I'm gonna unscrew that, and it's gonna drain out. Once your coolant is drained, you can take off your throttle linkage here. And then there's a bolt down here and a bolt right here. Now that guy's off. Next thing, you'll take your belt off of your power steering pulley here. Then you're gonna wanna take your whole power steering pump off and the bracket that holds it in. There was a bolt in the back here that you might miss. So I got that out and it came loose. And now there's one behind it. I'm gonna see if I can get to it without fully pulling this out. Then I can take the bracket out and move this all over. Now that you have this guy pushed off to the side, you're gonna wanna take off all your electrical connections. They're all different, so you don't have to label them. We got one there. There's a bunch back here I'm going to get to, and then I'll take this guy out. Once you have all your connections removed, you can begin to take the exhaust manifold off. There's a couple bolts, one here, and there's one here. I think there's 8 total. All right, for this wiring harness, I was kind of confused how it was on there, and basically you just have to pull it up super hard and it'll come off of these bolts. And then once you have that out of the way, it's a little bit easier to get to the exhaust manifold bolts. Go ahead and take your air box out as well. There's just 3 bolts down in the bottom. I had to take it out because there's a couple bolts under this and there was no way I was going to get to them. I mean, maybe from down there, but I think it'll be easier from up top. Now that we have this separated, we can go ahead and start taking the thermostat housing off. There's 2 bolts, one here and one underneath. Now that you have that guy removed, I push it over here away from the engine. We will take this guy off. It's a heater hose. Disconnect it here, and then that'll get that out of the way for us. Now I'm gonna pull all the spark plugs out. Oh yeah, and break my bracket. Fuck. Now that you have your spark plugs off, you can go ahead and take off your valve cover. Now that your manifold is off here, or your valve cover, you can begin to take each one of these out. Now when you're taking these guys off, you're gonna want to make sure you keep them in the same order because they'll wear differently, and you want to put them back in the same spot. So I just cut some slits in this jug here, and I'm just putting them in order, and then I'll use the other jugs for the other ones. But I'm just gonna keep them in order so I can put them back where they belong. Now that you have all your head gasket bolts out, I'm going to put them in order just like I did with the lifters, so I can put them back in the same way. To get this thing off, I just leveraged a wrench under this little exhaust manifold bolt and broke her free. Now that you have your head removed, go ahead and scrape it clean. We're using a razor, some Dawn dish soap. If you have some sort of solvent, that would be better, but we don't have any right now. So we're just getting it as clean as possible before we put it back on with the new gasket. New head gasket is in. Once you have all your head bolts in, the one on the top corner, you're gonna have to put some Teflon tape on or some gasket sealer because it goes into the water jacket and it's gonna leak if you don't do this. Now you're gonna wanna tighten down the head bolts in sequence. I will put a diagram up for you guys. First, you're gonna torque every one to 22 foot-pounds of torque, and then you'll go back through the order starting at 1, and you'll tighten every single one to 45 foot-pounds of torque. Now for the third time around, do the same thing again, but everything wants to be at 110 foot-pounds of torque, except for bolt number 11 right here, the one that goes into the water jacket. You're gonna want to set that to 100 foot-pounds of torque. Once you have your rocker arms tightened down, you might have to look it up because different years have different torque specs. Mine was about 22 foot-pounds. While I have everything apart, I'm gonna put a new valve cover gasket in, and then I'll put another exhaust gasket in here. Once you got everything put back together, you're gonna wanna fill up the coolant and you're gonna wanna burp it. Put the heat to high, but wait till it warms up. So the thermostat will open, it'll suck in a bunch of coolant. You gotta wait for the thermostat to open up, and then it'll start to suck some more in. There you guys have it. So get to it. It was pretty simple. It was really an easy job. It just was very time consuming. It took me probably 16 hours of labor. I hope this helps, and good luck on your project.